What do you think is a more accurate representation of reality? Asking somebody's opinion about something or observing what they actually do? Think about your boss standing over your shoulder. How is your behavior? Versus your boss is on vacation for 3 weeks and you know he's not going to be in the office. Your behavior in that circumstance. Well, we put together the most comprehensive ranking of people's actual behavior for the presidential race between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. We have 29 different factors, all based upon what people are actually doing with their time, versus what we have over here on the left from Real Clear Politics, polls with, say, 1,246 people in it, or down to 707 people that the media reports as being what the collective 330 million people think. This is not a joke. I'm not making this up. This is Real Clear Politics. This survey is from ABC News, where they have 707 people that responded to their survey, and then they report that 700 people is representative of what 330 million people think. This is not made up. This is the reality we live in 2020. You can see here that if we scroll down that pretty much every single survey, well, every single one of these, has Joe Biden leading. But what is actually going on? We take a look at all the top websites in the planet and each one of the individual profiles for Joe Biden and Donald Trump to understand who is actually winning. Who has got America's attention? Because attention is what you need to win in 2020. Now, with that being said, if this is your first time here, what's good? My name is Sam, and for those of you who are returning, it's good to frickin' see you. By the way, if you're returning, you'd better be pressing that thumbs up button. It's your second time here, bro. Okay, so we're going to first dive into a bunch of these polls and the methodology that they use, because not only do we know for a fact that the media is just garbage, right? The data, the story, the narrative the media puts out does not have the truth as their North Star, does not have objectivity as their North Star, does not have accuracy as their North Star. They are not trying to be truthful, accurate, or objective with anything that comes out from the media. I don't call it news because it's not news. That's like saying Disney is news. That's all they're doing is storytelling their fucking narrative. So that is not news. That's storytelling their narrative like Disney does. So, or any other media company like that. That's why it's called media, not news. So, let's take a look at this first one here. This one is actually, we're going to look at these first, a bunch of these actually. So this is from The Hill. So when you click on that, that just takes you over to a YouTube video. It doesn't even take you to the source of the data. And then if you go into the description of the YouTube video, they don't even have a link to where they're getting their data. It just says this survey was conducted online within the United States from August 15th through the 18th of 2020 with 2,800 blah, 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 right? And the margin of error is 1.8. So you know the media is garbage. I know the media is garbage. And so does the internet. If you look at the likes versus dislikes on this video, you can see that there's 659 thumbs up and 1,300 plus thumbs down. People know that it is garbage, right? These polls that come out are complete and utter crap. Now let's go on to the next one here. This one is the Economist. They got their data from YouGov, right? They're collaborating in some capacity. And once you dive down to the bottom of their PDF here, it says respondents were selected from YouGov's opt-in internet panel using sample matching. So They don't give us where they get their opt-in internet panel, but in one of these polls on Real Clear Politics, they use a site called mTurk. mTurk is an Amazon company, and I went through and created an account. And you know those websites or those ads you'll see where you can make money sitting at home just taking surveys? Well, that's what mTurk is. And I did about 50 of these. And my only incentive when I'm doing these surveys is to click through the questions as quickly as humanly possible to get paid. We've got this one here at the bottom. This is related to politics. 40 cents. This one, 40 cents. This one, 50 cents. This one, 15 cents. Ooh, this one's a bank. This was $2. $2. And it might take you 45 minutes to do. So we have companies that are literally getting their data from mTurk, which is basically you can go in there and you can click through surveys and polls as quickly as humanly possible to get paid. It is utter crap. So you're telling me this MOE, so this, if you look here in the center, MOE is margin of error. So you're telling me the margin of error on these is around 3%, or 3 points, right? Plus or minus. When you have utter garbage data. Let's take a look at another one. This one is from Mammoth, right? This one's from Mammoth College. So you scroll all the way down, and it says, the Mammoth University poll was sponsored and conducted by the Mammoth University Polling Institute. From August 6th through 10th, 2020, a national random sample of 868 adults, age 18 and older, in English. Okay? You're like, okay, that sounds pretty boilerplate, right? And, well, first of all, we know the sample size is absolutely ridiculous, right? 868 people. That's supposed to predict what the collective thinks. And when you look at this one more time, let's highlight this last part here. In English. So if you go over to the census, this is from the census.gov website. Let me make this a little bit bigger. This is the entire population. And it says that 15% did not speak well and 7% did not speak English at all. So there's 22% of the population that is getting left out of this because this is only done in English. So you have a poll that's less than 900 people that is predicting what 330 million people think. And yet you're leaving out a fifth of the population in doing this. We have the next one here. This is from ABC News that we talked about, right? We come down here. This is a good one. This is like, they're just like literally shooting themselves in the foot. So and I'm just going to read through some of this. The methodological, in all or nearly all cases, we require probability-based sample with high levels of coverage of a credible sampling frame. Non-probable, self-selected, or so-called convenience samples, including internet opt-in, email, blast fax, who has a fax, call-in, or street intercept and non-probability mail-in samples do not meet our standards for validity and reliability. And we recommend against reporting them. So this is literally coming from ABC News in terms of you have to click through a couple of ways to get to their methodology. In the next paragraph, they contradict what they just said. We do accept some probability-based surveys that do not, right here, that do not meet our own methodological standards. What? So we're like, here's our standards. We're the gold standard. We're number one. You shouldn't trust these other guys who do polling. We know what we're doing here. We don't do that stuff with like opt-ins online. That's below us. That's garbage. That's for common folk. You know, we're ABC News. And yet it says right here, they accept these surveys that don't meet their own fucking standards. I don't need to make this up. I don't need to come up with some type of narrative. You can go look up all of this yourself. This is absolutely ridiculous. So then they go on to provide their caveat, right? In terms of within household respondent selection, for example, but we may recommend cautious use of such data with qualifying language. So you know all the people who don't study statistics or have any idea how polling works or how data is manipulated, right? And then there's that fine print at the very, very bottom that myself will probably be the only one who reads it. Yeah, they'll put in like garbage data that doesn't meet their standards. And then at the very, very bottom in fine print that nobody's going to read but people like me, they'll say, hey, well, this data actually is garbage, right? Like, what is going on? This is the next one here. This is from Rasmussen, and this is on their methodology. All Rasmussen reports survey questions are digitally recorded and fed into a calling program that determines question order, branching options, and other factors. Wait, so here we have ABC News saying that we recommend against reporting others such as pre-recorded auto dial surveys. They say that right here. Except for you go to Rasmussen, and that's exactly what they're doing. Like, what is this is like the sitcom, right? Where you have Johnny talking shit about fucking Sally, and Sally's talking shit about Johnny to each other, and then the TV show keeps going on. And it's just absolute garbage. So it goes on to say, calls are placed randomly selected phone numbers through a process that ensures appropriate geographic representation. Yeah, I'm sure it does. Typically, calls are placed between 5 p.m. and 9 p.m. local time during the week. Saturday calls are made between 11 a.m. and 6 p.m. local time. Sunday calls are between 1 p.m. and 9 p.m. So let's take a look at one more piece of data here, right? Because these people are calling, and a lot of these things, there's landlines. I didn't talk about it in this video here, but there's a decent percent of these people who are calling landlines. I know all of one person who has a landline. That's my father, and he's 70-ish something years old. And he has it for his security system on his house. That is the single person I know who has a landline. Do you think if you're calling landlines in 2020 that you're leaving out a large portion of the population? You don't have to think that hard to realize that that is an accurate statement. And then, when you call cell phones, we have data. This is from Haya. This is like a caller ID type software that you can get as an app. And they had a sampling. I think this came out in 2019, I believe it was. Yeah, 2019. And they looked at 11 billion calls in America, right? 11 billion with a B. It's a tremendous number of calls. And they discovered that 52% of calls were picked up. So that means 48% were picked up. So roughly out of every 2 calls, 1 is not picked up. And I don't know about you, but I don't have time to talk to a spammer, right? So whether that spammer is a in-person talking to try to get an interview, or whether it is a spam call with a spam automated system that asks me questions, I have better things to do with my time, just like a lot of people do. So we know it's a spammer calling. Why are we going to pick up the time? So you have to ask yourself, well, what kind of people are going to pick up the phone for spammers? I don't know, potentially people who just don't have anything better to do. Maybe older people who get tricked into it. I used to work in financial services, and there would be a lot of older folks who would just pick up the phone because they don't know better, right? And you have 50% of 11 billion calls who are not getting picked up. So you're missing a tremendous amount of people who just have lives and better things to do than completely waste their time on the phone with spam. So then you're going to tell us that these MOEs here, these margins of errors, with these minuscule sample sizes here, the largest one here is 2,840. The smallest here is 707. So these microscopic data points represent what the collective 300 million people think, when the data is utter trash. That's what they're putting out to the American public. It is a complete and utter farce. Look back at 2016. We know how it played out. Now, let's move on to why we went into creating our own ranking with 29 independent factors here, all looking at people's actual behavior. So to start with, we looked at Facebook, right? And we went over to, this site is called Social Blade. They, most of the time, people who are influencers or in social of some sort use it as a vanity metric, right? To see how they rank relative to somebody else. And you can look at each platform on here and gather some data about it. So we looked at Facebook first, right? We looked at the total number of likes on Joe Biden's page versus Donald Trump's page. And Trump easily wins. This is over the last 30 days, not in aggregate. This is only the new people over the last 30 days, and Trump wins. Then we looked at the total number of people talking about each one of them, right? That would be like comments or shares or mentions, and Facebook groups in 2 or 4 different things that all come under the talking about tab. And again, Trump easily wins there. And then we took a look at the largest site in the planet, Google. We looked at the search volume in the United States over the last 30 days for Trump, Facebook, Biden, Facebook. And we see that there's a shitload more people looking for Trump than there is Biden. Interesting. The last one is we actually went to Facebook, and you can just search up here at the top for hashtag Trump 2020 or hashtag Biden 2020. And again, that one's like a 10x. For Biden, there's like 70,000 people who are talking about him using that hashtag, versus Trump 2020, there's 700,000 people talking about him, right? Do we see anything that resembles what the media purports as reality? No. This equals trash. Let's take a look at what people are actually doing. The next was Twitter. So we went over here and we looked at each Twitter of their accounts. This is over the last 30 days, how many followers each one of them gained. Trump easily beat Biden again, as that you would expect, right? And then we also just get to see who is actually doing a better job of communicating with their audience. In 2020, and probably for the last 24 months to 48 months, if you want to sell your product, if you want to impact the world, if you want to win an election, and you go to your local neighborhood and you knock on 100 doors a month, and I go to the same exact neighborhood, so if we live in the same neighborhood, and I knock on 1,000 doors a month, who do you fucking think is going to have more impact? Even if 8 out of those 10 people, 800 out of 1,000 people don't care for me, I still get 200 more every single month. And say your numbers are 50-50, because I am communicating with more people. The ability to communicate with an audience is how things happen today. And this is very interesting. This shows us who's communicating with their audience more, and that is Trump. And it's like 4-1, 200 tweets over the last 30 days versus almost 900 tweets over the last 30 days. And then we looked at Donald Trump Twitter versus Joe Biden Twitter. Again, and this is on Google. This is the search volume in the United States over the last 30 days for those terms on Google. Google Trends allows us to track all that data. And then we looked at the total number of retweets. So when you put out a tweet, how many times is it getting retweeted? This is going to give us a gauge of the engagement of the audience, like the fervor, their energy and passion around it. And we looked at the last 10 tweets for each one. And it wasn't, I wouldn't look at a retweet, only if it came from that person, right? And we can see that Trump easily beats Biden again. Now, we've gone through 8 different factors where Trump is winning easily. And yet, when we look at these polls here, we don't have one single poll going back, I'm back, all the way back here, not one single poll where Trump is winning. Because the data over here on the left is complete and utter trash. The next, we take a look at Google and YouTube search volume. So for this, we use Google Trends, and we looked at Donald Trump, Joe Biden, and who had more search volume over a 12-month period, a 3-month period, and a 1-month period. And then we did exactly the same thing, but we put in Donald Trump 2020, Joe Biden 2020. And in the 3 different time periods, for each one of those, the first and last name and then the first and last name 2020, Trump again wins. Interesting again. So now we've been through 10 different factors where we have sample sizes that are way bigger than 707 people. Interesting, right? This next one I find super interesting because this is their website ranking. Think about if you have a website and I have a website. Why do people go to websites? For one of 2 reasons. To get information or to spend money of some sort. And we both know that a website for a politician is literally just a glorified ad for that politician. Period. That's it. So if you have 30 million people going to your website, which is an ad for you, and I have a website and I have 5 million people going to my ad, who the fuck, and this is individuals who are choosing to go there, who the fuck do you think is more interesting to the public? The site that has 30 million people going to it, consciously choosing to go get information or give money, or the one with 5 million people going to it. Again, we're talking in millions, not 707 people total. That's total. So we looked at the ranking of their websites in the United States, and Trump easily wins. We looked over the last 90 days to see who is gaining more spots over time. Trump, again, wins. We looked at the total number of visitors. This is an estimate from simply SimilarWeb. So we get the data from Alexa on SimilarWeb. And we can see that, again, Trump wins again. And it was like 25 plus million to 5 or 6 million. We look at the total number of referring sites. So these are other companies or individuals who have a website which they probably create an income on, and they are linking to each candidate's site. And we've got more than twice as many sites that are linking to Donald Trump's website versus Joe Biden's website. But then again, that's not the narrative the media wants to tell, right? Have you ever heard the cliche garbage in, garbage out, right? The last is we take a look at Google search volume, and we see that Donald Trump website, Joe Biden website, who has more search volume? And again, that is Donald Trump. So we've been through like 15 different terms, and Joe Biden is hasn't won one category yet. So let's move on to Instagram, What do we have here? This is, again, this data is pulled from Social Blade. Over the last 30 days, all this data was collected over this past week. Today is 8/22. The announcement for VP was probably about 8 to 10 days ago, and that probably helped out Biden. Biden has, this is the one and only category where Biden beat Trump. He had more followers over the last 30 days than Trump did. He had 600 and change thousand versus 500 or 450-ish thousand followers over the last 30 days. But when you take a look at the engagement of the post, right? So you post something and I post something, and you get 37 comments, right? And I get 3 comments. Like, who's more engaged? Your audience or mine? And we can see that easily. Trump has a lot more comments on his posts than Biden does. The total number of hearts. These are people who are pressing the heart button, right? And again, with a lot of these things, you can have people that fucking can't stand Joe Biden who are commenting on Joe Biden stuff. And you have people that can't stand Trump who are commenting on Donald Trump stuff. And my first question is, what are you doing with your life that you think that is an intelligent use of your time to spend it consuming somebody that you don't fucking like? No wonder there's so many fucking mental issues. Look what you're feeding your mind, shit you don't like every day, and why do you think there's so many issues? There's not one thing in these people's lives, whether you fucking hate Trump or you hate Biden, there's not one thing in these people's lives that they can find to spend their time on to improve their life. Whether it's economically, learn something that they've always wanted to learn, clean their fucking car at their house, or achieve something, or spend time with a loved one, or read a fucking book. Like, I personally would have zero desire to live my life like that. It just doesn't sound super appealing to me. So we know that there's some overlap on these numbers from people who hate one another and yet still consume hate. Again, why do you think there's so many fucking mental problems? People are consuming this garbage every day and spewing hate into the world. Again, largely part because of the media. Biggest tip I can give you is stop watching, consuming any media of any form that comes from mainstream. It is utter garbage, complete garbage. So we take a look at the average number of hearts. Again, Trump wins. The total hashtag usage. This one's crazy. Hashtag Trump 2020, hashtag Biden 2020 on Instagram. It's like 2.7 million for Trump and not even 200,000 for Biden. Over a 10-fold increase in terms of how much Trump has versus how much Biden has. And then we took a look at the search volume. Again, this is Donald Trump, Instagram, Joe Biden, Instagram. And again, Trump wins. More people are fucking looking for Trump. But again, now we're getting down to the last 9 or so factors here. And that's so interesting, right? Because this garbage over here, all this crappy data over here points in a different direction. And you can see why when you exclude portions of the population or your sample size is complete and utter trash. The next is the YouTube channel for Donald Trump versus the YouTube channel for Joe Biden. Total number of subscribers. This easily goes to Trump, way more. Now, this is kind of interesting. The total number of views. The last time we did this was the only category Joe Biden had more in. He had like 15 million views over the last 30 days, and Trump had 6 or 7 million. That was last week. This week, when I checked, there's been a tremendous uptick in this. And it affects this in multiple ways. So there's about 45 million of those views. So Trump went from, say, 6 million views over the last 30 days to 82 million over the last 30 days. Biden went from 15 to 16, I believe it was. So a substantial increase for Donald Trump's YouTube channel. So I dove in to try to understand where did all these views come from? And it actually affects some of these other points that we have. We're going to touch on in a second here. But Trump came back and easily destroyed Biden, obviously, by like a 5-to-1, 5 views for Trump versus every 1 for Biden. But then when we come over here to the total number of awareness. So again, we did searches. This is again searching for Donald Trump YouTube, Joe Biden YouTube. We gather the data from Google Trends. Again, Trump easily wins. But now the awareness. So this actually comes from YouTube. And when you go up into YouTube and say you put in Joe Biden, and then you come over here and you filter to over the last month, and then you filter by view count. So you want the most popular ones over here. And take a look at these top 3 videos here. 20 million, 19 million, and 14 million, right? And we added up these top 10 videos over the last month that had Joe Biden in the title or the thumbnail. And then we did the same thing for Trump. And Trump easily wins. He has way more attention. But Biden had a substantial increase in the total amount of views over the last 30 days for these are other channels, right, that are talking with them. So let's take a look at these. Let's take a look at this. Well, we're going to zoom in a little bit here. This is the channel that the video came from. So this video is Joe Biden. Came from the Donald Trump channel. It has 20 million views. Again, the number 2 video released that has Joe Biden in the title or the thumbnail was released by the Donald Trump channel. 19 million. These are 4 videos, 4 days ago, 4 days ago. Then we have another one here. This is the number 3 most popular video on YouTube, the 2nd largest website in the fucking planet. Again, this is from Donald Trump. Interesting. So we have these 3 videos that were all released by Donald Trump's channel that total 55 almost million views in just the last couple days. So those views are what tremendously helped shift this for Donald Trump, right? From 6 million views over the last 30 days to 82 plus million over the last 30 days. But it also affected this number. It made Joe Biden look better because this is just an understanding of who's got more attention. Because there's something called the familiarity bias, right? So the more that somebody's talked about, like think about going to the store and your wife or girlfriend or somebody's like, hey, go get detergent, right? And you're just like, okay, I'm going to go there. I'm going to listen to a podcast, right? Or an audiobook. And I'm just going to grab the first thing that comes to mind. So you grab Tide, right? And you grab Tide without realizing it just because you're familiar with the brand. That's why attention wins, because of the brand. And this has helped in terms of the Biden name being out there, but I'm sure these are not super flattering videos. But in either case, there's way more attention for Trump than there is Biden there. The next was, this is an interesting one too. So this is the influencers. So these are the other channels that are putting out content. And we looked at just content within the last hour. So this is just a very small microcosm of the amount of attention. And it was like double. So there was about 60 videos released in the last hour for Trump versus 20 something, I think it was 25 or 28 for Joe Biden within the last hour. This is a tremendous amount of people who are putting in additional work to understand that it takes a lot of effort to put these videos together and put them out. That's why you just press that thumbs up button or share this with somebody else so we can start waking up more people to the reality of what's happening in America. Let's move on to the next one. So what's gotten a lot of publicity recently is TikTok. I have a TikTok. There's a link down below. I actually have 2 TikToks. It is a very interesting platform that is very misunderstood and misrepresented in the media, of course, just like everything else is misrepresented in the media. But what we did is we looked at hashtag usage for Trump 2020 or Biden 2020, Donald Trump 2020 versus obviously the vice versa for Biden, just the total name, Donald Trump, or just the last name, Trump, or just Biden. And these numbers are pretty staggering. So TikTok's short form videos. And we see that like just when we put in Trump 2020 versus Biden 2020, there's like 8 billion plus views on Trump content versus Biden 2020. There's like 1.3 billion views with a B. This is a tremendous amount of attention difference. There's the next, I think, is the last name. So it's Donald Trump versus Joe Biden. Or Donald Trump as the hashtag versus Joe Biden as the hashtag. And again, that's like 5.3 billion for Trump versus like 500 million with an M for Biden. So whatever data point you want to look at when you actually look at somebody's behavior, minus the total amount of people who have been followed on Instagram over the last 30 days, every single one of these, Trump wins. We've got 29 different factors that represent millions upon millions of data points. And yet, this trash is what the media reports on. If you found any value in what we talk about in these videos, take a moment and share this video with somebody and spread the word. We need more people to see what is actually taking place, and we need more people to wake up to the reality of what is happening right now. And if you don't want to share the video with somebody, that's awesome. Press that thumbs up button. It really helps out the channel, and it allows the SEO, search engine optimization, on YouTube so that more people will see this content. I appreciate you guys. Hope you create an amazing, amazing week. Peace.